Happy Sunday, everyone. Let's get to it. We are working on Reverb. Everything is working except for the new tests that we added. So we have 2 failed tests. They have yet to be implemented. Hopefully, they go quick today. Let's see. What's the quick key for this? Apple Shift E. Okay. That turns it on, but doesn't get rid of it. How do we get rid of it? Close dock. Oh, Apple B. Okay. Oh, that also opens the dock. Okay, and I deleted something. So I forgot where D was, or B. Bravo. Andy Super 94. How are you? Let's close that there. This year, we will be working on test database missing for download. So we need a way to handle this. Essentially, we need to handle the same error from a download database. I think we should extract the functionality from this one, because here we translate the response that we got, the error code that we get, into an error and return it, possibly. Where's my water? There it is. So this would take some sort of result, a tonic result. No, it's not a tonic result. What is it? It's a response. It's a tonic response. And we would convert the error, depending. And we want to return early. So this does lend itself very nicely for extraction. It's not quite what I was thinking. Leave that there. Now, we don't really want to translate. I'm just going to call this something for a moment. I'll take a result. Tonic result of something will probably be some t. We will return a result and toss that in there. Robin Mulfay. Mulfate? Is it a hard T on the end of that? How you doing, Robin? and welcome. All right. We'll call this something here. What did we call it before? We called it database updates, plural. Give it a something, database updates result. The T is silent. All right. Malfay. Pronunciation feels a bit, what is it, French? Anyhow, let's see. So we have something is here. Interesting. What is it complaining about? Cannot find function something in the scope because this should not be a self. Uh-oh. Go back. Where is something? No, I don't want to do that. Let's go to something. Should not be there. Let's put it way up above or way down below. Here we have sync manager, we have errors, and we have something. Beautiful. This should just be result. Relative DB path. Oh. We need for the errors the path that we are operating on. Sure. Let's just pass that through. Start checksum as well. Really? Ah. French name, but you're not French. Got it. Am I developing this based on some spec? It is buried in the depths of my mind. So no, it's not based on a spec. It's based on how SQLite works. So in some sense, yes, based on a spec, we are developing the client and the server for this SQLite replication tool. Oh. Yep. And this is today. We are testing the data plane application. It's part of a larger stack. Replicates data for SQLite using a VFS plugin. And where we are with this application, this is the fourth iteration of the architecture. I've modified this over quite a bit of time while pondering out different pieces of it. And so we are technically working on this area of the application. We're on the reader box, and we want to synchronize data from the data archive when the application starts up. Okay. Let me know if you have questions. I'm happy to go over it. We're just writing test code. We need the starting checksum that we asked for. It's almost like we want the request. This information is on the request. Name, from, and to. Interesting. We could get... Does the error for this include the request? I don't think it does. This just gives us a status and this response, which we will not be receiving because we're going to receive an error. So we only get the tonic status, and gRPC doesn't give you the request in your response error. All right. So let's also pass the stream database request into the error handler. We get the results. We pass the copy of the request in. And I thought I had wrapping enabled. These lines should wrap. Pretty clean code. Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Isaac. Now the type on this is stream database request. We don't want that there. We want one of these. But the other place we want to use this something is not making the same kind of request. I believe. Let's see. Oh dear, I've been on mute. Okay, so generally, what we were looking at here was whether or not we could reduce the number of types. Why have fetch database request and stream database request? Because the endpoint that you call, I don't know what to call these with gRPC. Are these endpoints? I mean, it's a what? Remote procedural call? So, so I am curious about this. What do you call? Oh, you know what would be fun? Just real quick, let's do one of these. Oh, hold on. Still. Trying to be vague here. I don't want to lead it into saying endpoint server-side handler or service method. Interesting. Now, do we get the same thing if we... Is it a service method? Interestingly, ChatGPT understood me better. I understand that it's a service. What do you call the thing on the gRPC service that handles a request? Oh, here. From the documentation itself. It's a service definition. Thus far, my favorite response was from ChatGPT. I like a service method. Well, okay. Where were we? We were talking about code. So we differentiate based on the service method. I don't even know if that's right or if it's a hallucination. Fetch. So we have this fetch database request, which is name and checksum. And then we have stream database request, which is also name. It's from DB checksum. Like this is the starting point. And then an optional endpoint. Okay. So we could use the same thing. And then just depending on the service method that we invoke, we get a different response. So maybe we should retire this one. Which one do we keep? How about, I like the name of this one, but the contents of the other. Fetch database request. That just broke a bunch of tests and a bit of code. All right, 11 errors, 10 of which we will fix. I'm going to stand up for a bit. Let me adjust my desk. All right. I did not forget about you. Ah. Yeah, I like that change. Okay. Well, on to the errors. Where are our errors? See, data archive, data plane. Fetch database request. Says from DB checksum. And we are also missing the optional pieces, right? Let's just focus on errors. There we go. That goes away. That goes away. Fetch database request. Let's give it a save. Oh, interesting. Z is bugging out. It doesn't want to scroll up. Start at the top. Fetch database request should have the information we need. Let's destructure it. Let name from checksum. This should probably include both from and to. Expected path buff. Found string. Sure. Oh. Ah, yes, and that does need to be an option. Clean that up in just a moment. Fetch database request from DB checksum. Cannot find value from DB checksum. So it's just DB checksum here. So we just don't know what the end is, right? So the client will ask for a range or a starting point. Interesting. Sorry, I'm just thinking about this a bit more. Just give that a quick clone. Or does this need to be? This could be a reference to it. No? Hmm. It doesn't know what to do for displaying this. Let's use pretty printing. Okay. But before I get too far past, I want to look at this again. Because in this case, for fetching a database, we just want a database at a given checksum. Give me all the bytes that represent this database for this checksum. And we fetch the database response. I say, from this checksum. This doesn't actually make sense for it, does it? We can always separate it later. I think this drawing of the code might have been incorrect. We have one fewer actors in this play. Because now it gives somebody the possibility of fetching a database and providing the range, which would not be useful. So why even allow it? Gives room for bugs. Drat. Okay, undo. This is the part where we say, I was wrong. See, how far do we go back? Keep going. Keep going. Oh, something is back to how it was. We will pass the pieces in. That makes sense. Database checksum not found response error. We will pass the information in. We'll have the relative path. We will have the start checksum and the end checksum. Let's add the end checksum back to this. Okay. And there's an error right here. Let's go. We have to pass it information. This is in stream database updates. So we should have everything basically right here. Is that a stir? Oh, interesting. So we give it a path. Oh, and it still references the information inside of that. Okay. And if we cannot go to... If the database name is not UTF-8 compliant, then we return this error. Okay. It's fine. Relative DB path as star. Interesting. No, we don't want that. We want the other one. Relative DB path. That one. Or do we? No, we're just converting it to a string, aren't we? No, they're path buffs. Okay. That's fine. I've started to like start and end. I don't know. I'm just in a mood today. Let's go with, so instead of from and to, let's go start and end. And the DBPs, we know we're in a database. We're asking about databases. Start checksum, end checksum. Oh, but we don't know if it's a page or the entire database. So let's be clear there. That's good. Because we have page checksums and DB checksums. So we're trying to differentiate between those. Okay, so now we have more errors. I don't know, maybe I just like errors. This is start DB checksum and end DB checksum. Something relative start and end checksum. Okay. Now here, start and checksum. There we go. We're not returning the right thing. Let's remove that and that. So we're converting certain errors on this. Maybe we drop this down to simply a map error. You toss it in a map error. It feels a lot like a map error in the way that I'm using it. We get some response. And really, we're just touching the error. So what if we knew it was an error? We could strip this out. Strip that out. This would be a tonic status. We do not need a type for that. This would simply be some new error. There we go. There's our name. Convert not found out of range. And instead of that, we will .map error. Ta-da. Okay. So now we have this code that we can use in two places. Convert not found out of range. It's a bit long, but descriptive. Let's go to download database. This one here. We want that on fetch database. Status is passed in, relative path, very common here, but DB checksum is the start. And we do not have, oops. We do not have an end. Okay. Good. So now we might return these two errors from this, out of range and not found. What would we do with these though? So in this case, if it's not found, great, we just go on, right? If it's out of range, something is broken, like badly broken, because they gave us the range here. So down below, we handle these. If we try to stream the database and we do not find it, then fine, we just remove our local file, because at this point we actually have a copy. And we return OK. We wouldn't actually need to do anything in here except for return OK. We need to capture that. But now the checksum not found error response. This one, we just pass through. There's nothing that we're going to do with this if we download it ourselves. Okay, we'll take this. Download results. We'll take the skeleton from down below. This, we do not do anything. This one, if the server gave us a checksum, then that we then cannot use, what should we do? Retry? Because maybe the server compacted the checksum? Why would it have gone away? What are like valid reasons? I can only think of compaction. So maybe we should try downloading the file again. Which means we would ask for information about it, get DB info again. I just feel like these pieces should be extracted out to their own functions now. So at this point, we know that we want a specific database because we have the relative path. This request here could be placed into this branch. We only have it out here because either both branches use it, and when there was less code, it was clear. But now that the code doesn't fit on a single page, we should refactor this. Sync database. And we have something that's called download database. So maybe we move this into download database. That would give us a point where we could maybe loop around it, try so many times. Let's take this. I'm going to drop this in the else side because it will need it for, and download database needs it as well. We no longer need that passed in. Reverb data archive client. Okay, this is our connection to the archive server. This is the file we want to download. This is where we convert the out of range piece. So ideally, we would what would we do? Absolute path, relative DB path. Okay. Let's look up here again. Was download database. Okay. So we push that information down into here. I think we should probably do the same with these, but it does mean that we need to add another layer inside of download database. So download database would itself be broken into multiple functions. All right. All right. So when we start to do a database download, Let's have a async function fetch database info. That sounds great. Wow. Copilot, how did you know what I was thinking? Is it correct? Name? That's creepy. I don't think that we want to convert it to inner here because we want to be able to handle the errors above. If we did handle the error here, what would we do? We would return error, and then error would bubble up. And the only error that we would handle here would be database not found. Which would be fine for us for download database. It's almost that we would want to handle that here and just return early. Say, yep, we're done. Good. Let's keep going. So let's try to push some of this information down, the actions down, the error handling up. This here should not be here. Yes. Result. DB error. Oh, because we do not convert it yet. Okay. So we call fetch database info. Now, if we have this or do not have this, oh, I forgot to await this. That's fine. This is more of a response. Into inner should result in DB info, which is database information response. Response here. Okay, good. Now errors. This is where we want to handle the different errors. So it's a little bit like this. Not found, out of range. You have to pass so much information to this. And in this case, we do not need all of that. Maybe we break that down into multiple pieces. So really, we just need the DB path. We do not need start and end. It's asking for information about our database. It's just going to be the one thing. This is okay to be in both places. First time you see a light theme being pretty. I switched to light theme this past summer as I spent a lot of time coding outdoors. Had to get my vitamin D levels up, you know? Convert not found. We will probably use this all over the place as well. Sync database. Sync database calls download database. This goes away. Oh, we might need to undo this. You have a similar issue now with a light window? Yes. The name of the theme. So this is the Z editor. And this theme is called One Light. If there's an error, remove DB from checksum DB. Okay. I don't need to pass that anymore, just the connection relative path. Hey, Lapta. How are you? So we download the database. We're refactoring this to have kind of sub-functions and error handling here. So when we say download database, we fetch the database info, we'll match the error, status, and we want to convert not found with status and the path. Do we have that relative? Did it want an actual path? Path buff, it does. Okay. So relative DB path passed in, expected pipe found paren map error. Obviously, something's amiss. 1, 2, 1, 2. Convert not found. We get error back. Spot the error. Oh, it's fine. I just needed to save. And then depending on the result, if it's a response, sure, we push that into database info. But now if the error is one of these, we can just return. We say, hey, this thing doesn't exist. We could return Boolean as to whether or not it was downloaded. Like success, failure. Or we just let that bubble up. Actually, if we do that, then we can handle both errors in one place. So we convert that, do that. This is unit, okay. DB info is equal to fetch database response into inner. Great. Okay. What's the next section? We just did this. That goes away. Database information response. We are destructuring that there. Do we need this? Not in this file. So we could destructure it here. So we start to fetch information. No, we fetch the database itself. Fetch the database. And in this case, we convert for 2 errors and then return. We were going to say, if we got an out of range, maybe we should start this function again. Right? Due to some compaction or something, we need to have the database. It's still there on the server, but point in time we were looking for doesn't exist anymore. Somewhere between this call and this happening. Then we stream the database to disk. How many times should we try this? We'd extract this to its own function. We could just call it, fetch database or start fetch database. And we get a DB response. Otherwise, we bubble the error up. I like the idea of this becoming its own function. Start fetch database. We give it some information. We want back the DB response for fetch database request. That's what a fetch database response or error. Okay. Does this need to be mutable? I think because of connection. Wait, what happened? No, 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 no. Copilot. That was not good, Copilot. Did that. That. Oh, that was my issue. Fetch database info. We need connection as well. Okay. That's a streaming fetch database response. Hey, BlackMind17. How you doing? This is Zed, yes. I'm doing well. Doing well. Chipping away at a very big project. So, unused variable page size. Absolute path not used. So we start that, then we start to download. DB response is already streaming. Let's change the name there. Let's rename this to something like streaming response. That way, our future self will understand it better. It's going to be there. Get rid of that line. Oh, interesting. We need page size. Oh, fun. For me, it pretty much gets out of the way. I I started using Zed in order to be able to use Copilot, just to understand the tech, what's happening in the industry, what is it useful for. Kind of a gray beard myself. So trying to teach old dog a new trick. And it didn't, so Copilot didn't really integrate well, I think, into Helix, which is what I was using before. And before Helix, I was using NeoVim and Vim for 20 plus years. So generally, as long as I see text, I'm good. And it needs a Vim-like mode. All right. I'm going to adjust the heater. Be right back. Okay. Page size. We need page size back from this function. We need to know about the database, and page size is one of the pieces we get back. What's here? Page size. So we have to return two things. DB response and page size. Tuples. U32. Expected one. It's there. Too many parens. Streaming response and page size. It's a little. We'll live with it. Now, we were doing this so that if there was some sort of compaction between fetching the info and starting this, that we could do something where we fetch the info again and try again. Now we've got it isolated. Would we want to do that here or here? We could try a number of times to get this information. And if we do that here, it's kind of clear that we are retrying when we're downloading a database. So if we get out of range, we try a number of times and then give up. Open the file. See, I think this section here, we should probably extract this into like a stream to disk or something. Something like that. We will invoke stream download file here. But what does it actually need? It needs, well, self isn't going to work. We know that. But what else does it want? Oh, it needs to return the right thing. Streaming response, relative. Okay. Copilot. Man, you beast, you got it. Okay, let's move this. And the three arguments, which I promptly forgot, were streaming response, relative DB path, and page size. Streaming response, relative DB path, and page size. Do we need page size here? Wouldn't that be apparent based on the data we receive? Right DB page. Page wants page size because of why? Oh, because we're told which page it is. The data is right here. I mean, we should be able to validate that it's a power of 2. I saw something a while back. A trick to validate something was a power of 2. Let's see. Look at that. It will incorrectly return true for n is 0. Okay, that's interesting. Yes, it was the graphics.stanford.edu site. That 0 is incorrectly considered a power 2. To remedy this, use blah. We do not care about 0. Okay. Is power of 2. Let's see, we want U size. Because it's going to be the length of the vector. I don't know, that means if somehow the server sends half a page of data, it's going to end up in the wrong spot. No. I'm not doing this. Not doing it. Okay. Because in the future, we need the page size to know which page the data will end in. And page data might not be entire pages in the future. So I'm going to keep page size. Okay. Right, DB page, come back from that. Stream download to file. Okay. We validate the checksum. DB checksum is from that response. maybe we return the DB info that we actually used. So here, this database information, we want the checksum, the page size, and I would like a type better than a U32. That feels a little naked to me. Yeah, let's not deconstruct it. Let's just keep it as DB info. Let DB info equals fetch database results into inner. Yes, that is correct. Database information. What is it? Response? Yeah, database information response. Okay, now where we use this here, we get not page size, but DB info. This would be DB info dot page size. Great. Now we will also have the checksum. Okay. Download database. We start the DB fetch. We get a streaming response and the DB info. Those we should probably flip comma, and flip comma here. That makes more sense to me. Start downloading to the file. Oh, I did not adjust the type either. This one, comma, good. Stream it to file. We then, what is this? Checksum DB. Oh, we validate the checksum. This feels like a function call. Validate DB checksum. Wow, what in the world? That looks better. Expect. Let's rename this to expected. Which is a U32. That looks good. We will call self db, let's see, validate db checksum. We can bail there. We don't need the with context because we are returning an error of the right type. Copilot gets a lot of things almost right. Thus far, in my experience with it, I'm using it as a more capable autocomplete. Validate DB checksum. Great, got that. Bum, bum. So now our download looks like start, stream it to disk, validate the checksum. That seems all right. What's going on here? Stream database updates. This is something else. Oh, this is no longer a result. It's actually database updates. There we go. A couple more errors. Let's go clean those up. And then we'll do our loop. We were talking about retrying in a certain case. DB info.page size? We don't have DB info. What do we have? What function is this? Oh, right. DB info had been up here. DB info is now inside. And stream database updates. Why are we passing page size into this? Because we have to write these to disk. It almost feels as though the streaming should just page size. All right, we'll come back to that one. What's this error up here? Relative DB path. Just a typo. Okay. Download database. Takes 2 arguments, but 3 were supplied. Because we no longer require DB info here. Is it still used? It is. With checksums, page size. Okay. Now just, it says there's 2 errors. Oh, this one here. Fetch database info. That returns error. But we're not returning error here. We're returning something else. And fetch DB info is used and converted later. Is that the only place it's used? It is. Okay. Our error is invalid DB name. This should not be possible. The server will only support UTF-8. So when this comes down to the client, we're converting a relative DB path to a string. I mean, what have I done to myself? We could pass this in. So we're just using this. Yeah, let's just pass this in. All right. So if we get out of range here, what do we do? We should try again. How many times? I could do it until it succeeds. Could result in the hug of death from the clients to the server if there is a server bug. 3 sounds like a good number. 2, adequate. If we just did the whole thing twice for every error, I think that would be okay. It's interesting. How do we set this up? We could go one level higher. I was thinking about focusing on just the first piece. And then if the stream failed, Not sure. If we did move this up, oh, wrong one, this one, we just try the whole thing twice. And four, you know, oh, don't do that. This looks gross. Something like so. Just do it twice. But we would want to only send the errors on the second one. So just have the code here twice. Try once. If it fails, do it again. We would want to ensure that the file does not exist. So we could try to just remove the file, do the process. If anything fails, reset, do it again. Let's create database return. The previous one. Okay. I don't think we'll be caring about this so much, but we probably need the opposite. Is there a conditional catch? I guess we would have to implement that manually. So if we got rid of that, now we have possibly an error. Could say or underscore in 0.2. Have what mutable bool is retry. Oh, actually, we could just check to see what the kind of attempt is. So first, we remove it from the checksumdb and then create it. Self.checksumdb.remove database, which is kind of what create does, right? Like it inserts a new one, a brand new one. Okay, so let's get rid of that. We don't create a new database. And we should delete any database file on disk. Like so. What can we guarantee that the file has been removed? Is there anything on, let's say, standard file? These are operations on the file itself, not to the file system. Remove file. No, no guarantee it's removed immediately. Okay. Unlink on Unix. I understand that. We will ignore everything for a moment. Oh, we don't have the absolute. Move this up. Okay. Rev the file. We download the database. Is there any other cleanup we have to do for this? Match download results. Okay, break. If attempt is one, return error. Beautiful. Thank you, Copilot. Maybe we should only continue on certain errors. If the file's not found, it's gone. We should not try. Database not found. Response error. Just ignore that. Like so. Whereas Elysian with 2 dots here. Yes, okay. CheckSumDB. Let's create a delete DB. But let's be create database, delete database. Remove. I could see remove. So this is a dash map. And when we call remove on a dash map, let's see, mismatched types because of the return type. Expected option to a DB, but it's giving us the key as well. That's fine. So it's the entry that's being returned. Okay, let's call it remove database. That's fine. We're not actually, we kind of are deleting it. We're removing it. Okay, now we're in a consistent state. What other errors? I think where I'm conflicted is, do we do this for any kind of error or only certain types of errors? Should we retry? Download database could have errors where? Start fetch, stream download to file. It could have file errors. And quite frankly, why wouldn't we want to retry that? Hmm. If we are returning an error, let's also clean up. Okay. This page size piece in 99% of like operating this thing, it's going to be 4 kilobytes. It's just going to be 4 kilobytes. Because to be performant, you don't want the pages to be very large. Otherwise, you're copying a lot of extra data around for small changes. You would also want to shard the database into multiple files. Oh, page size. Do we bubble up the page size? Return the DB info. Set it in an option. Or is this in the wrong place? We happen to want to stream the database updates after either one of these. Maybe it should be part of, wherever this mess gets extracted into, and then part of download database. So we just kick off a task as stream database updates. Where is it? Wait, where's the Tokyo? Stream database updates. Okay. Why isn't this in a Tokyo task? It should just go on forever. That's the whole point of this. Okay, this looks wrong. The only reason this works currently is because we haven't tested it. And we could call some function here that says listen to database changes, something like that, right? We could do that. And that just kicks it off in some task that just runs forever. And then we go on to listening, with downloading the next database and listening for changes. That should be extracted. I am surprised. I am genuinely surprised that this is not a Tokyo task already. This should probably be its own function. Maybe we could call it attempt to download database. And this one would then later call attempt to download database someplace. Remove file here. Okay. This we have yet to create, which is fine. Okay, we have our attempt piece there. Let's extract this. Extract into function. Let's call that, what was it? Listen for database changes. We need this DB info though. We could return DB info here. Information response. DB info. So we pass that back. Now we have DB info. And listen for database changes. It wants a page size. There. Path channel. Oh, we did this in the opposite order. We passed the connection. I like the connection first. What is this? Remove file. Ah, wait. This should be on its own task. Get the checksum. But how far before we spawn the task? Stream database updates? Maybe in here? We send a request. We get some response. We create a file. I think here, this section right here needs to be its own task. The piece that will be meh is the self here. Because when we toss this out into a task, we would have to clone self or change write DB page so it's no longer using self. The checksum DB we can easily pass in. It's clonable. Any other self in here? There isn't. Interesting. Okay. Okay, that is interesting. Write database page. We take that off of there and just pass checksum DB in. Checksum DB. What? Checksum DB mutable? That doesn't exist. My goodness. DBs is that and this. We probably don't want to pass in the whole DB. Probably looking at just a single DB, which is one of these. Just, so we could clone that. This here, this is a ref mute. Actual page checksum. Okay. So here we're just doing some validation. I think we should put that in its own little scope so that DB here. Wait, is that an issue? Here. We need the checksum back out of this. essentially, I want to release this as quickly as I can. Dash map, mutable reference. Let's look that up. Hmm. Mutable reference to an entry in the map. Yep. May deadlock. Okay, it's a guard. We need to drop the guard. Let's put that outside. Interesting. We are checksumming the database inside of there. How long does it take to check some 4 kilobytes of data? That's how long we're going to keep this open. We could do the work ahead of time and set the page checksum. Just so we don't hold this lock open very long. Essentially, we would extract this. Given the way that this is constructed, I think it might be a nice change to the interface. Just to require that the data is checksummed and then the checksum is provided to the page. Therefore, the locking can be as small as possible. We're going to break everything today. Set page checksum. Ooh. This would be extracted. This is page. Didn't we? What happened? I thought I renamed that. F2. Did I hit escape or something? Set page checksum. This goes away. And we need someplace where we can drop this implementation. I know I have it a couple different places of where to check some things. But we want data. No, what is this called? DB checksum. DB checksum lib. Oh, function checksum. This is data. Oh, U8, I think. U32. Okay. And we just broke everything. Broke so many things. Okay. Let's go fix the checksum pieces. All right. Yeah, all of these. Let's go fix the tests first. Set page checksum. So now we have to checksum the data first. Let checksum equals. No, we can't do that. C equals checksum. C. I'm going to do this a lot. Function takes one argument, but 0 were supplied. Oh, this is called checksum. No. Let's call it test checksum. Oh, goodness. Test page resize. Checksum, good. 1, 2. Okay. A couple more here. Let's start there. Right now we're down to 6 errors. Lovely. Much better. Signature fine. Okay. Yep. These are issues from earlier. Checksum matches. Where are we actually checksumming things? Do we not like? Oh, set page checksum. This we need to fix. Any other set page checksum? No. DB checksum? Isn't that what that crate is called? DB checksum. But when you're in the crate checksum. There we go. There. Now they're separate. This still gets called, but it's called on like a blocking thread. So I think we're okay here. 13 errors. Oh my goodness. Show us the errors, Zed. And that's an archive server. Data plane. Okay, let's look here. Listen for database changes. Okay. Expected 3 arguments. Set page checksum. Here we go. Actual page checksum. It's equal to db checksum page data. Yes. Then we set it here. Okay, that's a lot less work that was done. We get the database checksum back out. Okay. Fascinating. Why would this have been? Oh, because that's passed in. This is. Huh. Yeah, we need to pass 2 in. Let's call this actual. DB checksum. This gets a second. We do not need this returned because we set it. Okay. All right. That's not too bad. It takes 8 arguments, but 7 were supplied. Checksum DB. Yes. DB file. That's. Is that the one we're missing? Where's the DB file? DB file. Right DB page. Connection, path, and page size. Page size. That's right. Now, where does that exist? That exists in this scope? Yes. Okay, so let's move this up to here. So in this case, we attempt to download the database. When we attempt to download the database, we do these retries. And then if everything goes well, we will listen for database changes and kick that off. Okay. We are attempting to spawn as small a task as possible so that these errors bubble up before the task is spawned. Stream database updates. We come into here. Might return some errors. It's okay. We open a file. And then at this point, from here to here should be a task. Tokyo task spawn. This isn't enough. This would never get called. Let's remove that. We flush to disk in this database page, right? Where is it? Here. Ah, yes. But what do we do with errors now? Oh, the challenge. Yeah. Other than those two errors, 1, 2, what other errors do we have? Data archive. Let's check out what is this? What function are we in? Oh, this is the test archive server. Okay. So the interface changed. So for stream database updates, it's a fetch database request now. What was before? Let's go to the trait. Trait. Oh. Reverb data archive. Reverb data archive. Data proto. It's a trait. And in here we were looking for, what was it? Fetch database? Stream database updates. Here. Stream database request. Really? Nice. Okay, great. We have that piece. Did that fix all of the other errors? Say close all. No. What's close clean? Oh, this one's still open. Or it's not saved. Got it. Coming back here. Wow, so much has changed. So much has changed. We are going to attempt to run the tests. And then I will crawl up into a little ball under my desk. It has errors. Why cannot find this type? Well, that's great. Okay. There we go. Down to 4. Just make that unit for now. Should direct us. All right, so this is for stream database updates. Stream database updates takes a stream database request. Oh, unless I have an error in this file. I'm going to check HP data proto. Oh, it's good. Okay. Oh, but we didn't import it. Silly Halsey. Okay. Which means that this is... Yep. We'll go there, change this. Beautiful errors. Listen for database changes. Arguments are incorrect. Relative path. Oh, we moved the connection first. Okay. Good. Down to 8. Are they still incorrect, or is this not right? That's saved. I don't see an error here. Going back to using cargo check. Data plane DB can only be used. Okay, this is in the async block. Ignoring. Oh, it's just the async block. Okay, and if we this, there should be one other. Yes, this is the other one. Okay. Run database stream spawns a connection. What? Who calls run database stream? Oh, yes, yes, yes. Okay, that makes sense. Tokyo task spawn. We want here. Now it wants to know what the error type is. Underscore error, which is the error type for this file. We've gotten to the lifetime errors. Nice. Relative DB path escapes method body. Self. Oh, yes, we need to clone that before spawning. All right, well, this is interesting, but we end up with this thing that like the errors just never get caught. Okay. Looks like there are a couple different errors still. It wants a mutable reference to that instead of it clone. Because in this instance, stream download to file, we are downloading something. We're not streaming afterwards. This piece here happens at the very beginning. So write DB page does not need to spawn anything. It's all done inline. That's fine. There are some more errors down here towards the bottom. All right. Do DB checks event request 2. Ah, yes, we changed that. Was it start and end now? End DB checksum. We're down to one error. That means, what does that mean? These are not the errors I was expecting. Is this really an error? Or is the editor confused? Let's try running a test. All right. Bunch of errors. Good, but 2 succeeded. Oh, 4 passed and 4 were errors. Okay, just to simplify this, I'm going to comment these aspirational tests out. That means there should be 6 with 2 failures. Lovely. Test dbsync if there are changes. Okay. And test dbdownload if stream error with out of range. Interesting. All right, but I have other stuff to do today. I've got a list of things to do for the next stream. Fix 2 tests, add 2 more. So I'm going to call it there. Who should we raid today? Who's streaming Rust? Let's go to Twitch. Software and game development. Search for Rust. Museum. Wow, look at so many Rust streamers. This is great. This is exciting. They actually doing Rust? Testing out the new Linux config. That doesn't sound like Rust. Rewrite it in Python. That's funny. All right. We're going to try this one. Thank you all. It's been fun. Got some more done. It's coming along. Probably take, I don't know, another week or 2 on data plane, and then we'll move on to archive server. Get it stubbed out to the point where we can get the other side of data plane sending data to the archive server. Until next time, y'all.